Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So this is my beginner's guide for the brand new DJI Mini 5 Pro. When new drones like this get released, I like to create beginner's guides to help those who are brand new get familiarized with the hardware and the basic functionality. Now this beginner's guide is designed for those who have never flown a drone before. We're going to go over everything you need to know to make sure you have a safe and successful first flight. So with all that said, let's just jump right in and get started. Now we're going to go over everything that comes in the FlyMore kit. There's actually several different packages you can purchase when it comes to the Mini 5 Pro. And it doesn't matter what kit you've purchased, you can still follow along because the basic functionality is going to be identical. Now you may have just purchased the base kit, which is going to come with the drone, one battery, and a controller. But if you've purchased the FlyMore kit, essentially you're going to get the drone. When you get it, there's going to be one battery already pre-installed in the drone. You're going to get a charging hub that has two batteries in it. So you'll have a total of 3 batteries in the FlyMore kit. You're also going to get a set of ND filters. And I'm not really going to get into what ND filters are for in this video. Essentially, it helps you get a little bit creative, add some motion blur to your footage. But I might make a separate video about how to utilize them. You're going to get some spare props. You're going to get a charging and data cable. You're going to get a little information package, a quick start guide. Now there's very limited information in this quick start guide. DJI does have a full in-depth user manual that you can download on their website. So definitely a good idea to do that. It has a lot of valuable information in it. And then of course we're going to get the controller. Now there's 2 types of controllers, which we will talk a little bit about here in a minute. This one here in the FlyMore combo is called the RC2. It has a built-in screen. And then of course you're going to get a carrying bag that's going to fit everything from the FlyMore combo inside. Now as mentioned, there are going to be 2 main controllers that you'll be able to purchase with your Mini 5 Pro. You'll have this one here. This is called the RCN3. And with this one here, you have to mount your smartphone. This antenna pulls out and the phone mounts there at the top. The data cable is tucked away inside there. And you'll be able to connect that to devices that have both Lightning and a USB-C port, such as Android phones. The more common controller, and the one that I do highly recommend if you do have a choice, is the RCN2. This one has a built-in screen, so it's much more convenient. You don't have to worry about whether your phone is compatible or not. You don't have to worry about downloading apps. Everything is built right into this controller. Alternatively, the Mini 5 Pro is also compatible with the RC Pro 2. This is the controller that was launched with the Mavic 4 Pro. It can also be purchased separately. It is an expensive controller, but it has a nice large 7-inch screen and it's extremely bright. For some people, this might be a controller that they're interested in. Now, the other thing I want to point out, there's actually 2 different batteries that you can get with your Mini 5 Pro. They have their Plus battery, which focuses more on flight time. It's going to give you a total rated time of 52 minutes. Now, the thing to remember is that if you are purchasing the drone and you purchase it with Plus batteries, the drone is going to be over 249 grams. So that is something to keep in mind. For some people, they need a sub 250 gram drone. So in that case, you want to order it with the regular battery. You'll still get a good amount of flight time. It's rated for about 36 minutes. But more importantly, that will keep the drone under the 250 gram mark. So let's go ahead here. We're going to take a closer look at the equipment. We're going to start with the controller. Again, this is the RC2, the one with the built-in screen. When you get it, you're going to notice that the control sticks are not attached. If we turn the controller over, you can see they're stored there in the back. And it's a good idea when you have this packed in a backpack or the camera bag, make sure you take the sticks off just so you don't damage the gimbals. And they just screw on. They're the exact same stick, so it doesn't matter what side you attach them to. At the top here, we have antennas that fold out. So it's definitely important to make sure you unfold them while you're flying. And a good rule of thumb is you don't want to point the antennas directly at the drone. You want the flat side of the antenna facing where the drone is flying. And again, when you pack it away, they just fold up out of the way. If we take a look at the front of the controller here, we have some LEDs there at the top. That larger one there signifies the status connection to the drone, and these smaller ones over here are the remaining battery. We have 3 buttons there in the middle. This one on the very right-hand side is our power button, and we can actually just do a quick press on it, and it'll show us how much power is in the controller. In the middle here is our mode selector. We have Cine mode, normal mode, and sport mode. Cine mode basically slows down all the inputs, the flight speed, the sensitivity of the sticks, the gimbal movement. That allows you to capture slower, more cinematic footage. Normal mode is just kind of like what it sounds like. It's kind of a normal flight mode. And then if you want to fly faster, you can put it over into sport mode. It's very important though, we're going to talk about obstacle avoidance coming up here in a minute. When you put it into sport mode, the drone's obstacle avoidance is disabled, so you do have to be very careful while flying in sport mode. And then over here beside that, we have a return to home and a pause button. Pressing and holding it will automatically initiate the drone to return back to where it took off from, but a single press on it will pause the current activity. So if you're using one of the intelligent flight modes or you want to pause the return to home, you can use that button there. At the bottom of the controller, we have a USB-C port for charging. That can also be used to update the controller. And beside that, we have a memory card slot. Now, it is not absolutely necessary to put a memory card slot into the controller. Essentially, that's going to be if you're going to be doing a lot of screen recordings, screen captures, and different things. For most people, it's really not necessary. All the HD footage that you capture on the drone is going to be stored either on the memory card, on the drone, or in its internal memory. If we flip the controller over here, we have a C2 and a C1 button. Those perform various tasks, and it can be customized in the settings, which we will get into coming up here later on. If we take a look at the very top of the controller, we have a record button on this side that'll start and stop recording. Over here we have a shutter button that'll take a photo, and we have two dials. The dial on this side will adjust the angle of the gimbal, so it'll point the camera down or up depending on what you're filming. And this dial over here can adjust the zoom level. Now it can also be used to rotate the camera. That's one of the features of the Mini 5 Pro, is that you can rotate and spin the camera for creative effects. So you can also use that dial there. To power on the controller, it's very simple. Most DJI equipment requires a double press just for safety reasons, so you don't accidentally turn it on in a bag. And what you have to do is a quick press and then a long press. So one quick press and then press and hold. And you can see there that the controller will go ahead and power on. To power it off, it's the exact same thing. We're going to do a quick press and then a press and hold. This here is the charging hub, and we can charge a total of 3 batteries in it. And we're going to take a look at charging here coming up in a minute. We have some LEDs on the front here that'll show us how much power is in it by pressing that button there. You can see it'll light up and show us how much charge is in each battery. Over on this side here, we have our USB-C charging port. And you can also use this as a power bank. So if you're out filming and say your smartphone gets a little low in power, you can actually plug it into the USB-C port and transfer power from the batteries over to your smartphone if that's your priority for charging. To release the batteries from the charging hub, we just have to press in those 2 buttons on either side and they come right out. So we'll take a closer look at the drone now. You can see right now it's in its folded state and we have the gimbal guard attached. It's definitely really important when traveling and you have this packed away, always put the gimbal guard on. That gimbal is actually very fragile, so if it's rustling around in a bag and you don't have the cover on it, you could end up damaging it. So it's always important to make sure you have that on when you pack it away. To release it, we can just pull down on that tab. And as you can see, it comes right off. Now, when it comes to powering on the drone, there's a couple different ways in which we can do it. One of the new features of the Mini 5 Pro is that it will automatically power on when it's unfolded, and again, it will power off when it's folded. Now, you can disable that in the settings, which we will take a look at. I'll just show you here as I unfold it. You can see there, it went ahead and powered on. And again, when I fold it up,
aircraft will power off in 5 seconds. Press any button on aircraft to cancel.
You can see there we got an audible message saying the drone was going to power off. Now I just want to mention quickly here, the very first time you unfold your Mini 5 Pro, don't be alarmed if it doesn't power on. When these batteries are shipped, they're in a sleep state, kind of just for safety. So when you unfold your Mini 5 Pro for the very first time, if these batteries have not been activated yet, then it may not power on. And activation is very simple. As soon as you charge the battery for the first time, it will activate. Now I am going to unfold it again here. I'll show you the other way to power it on and power it off. The other way to power it on and power it off is by using the power button there. And again, just like the controller, it's just a quick press and then a long press. And you can see the drone went ahead and powered off. And again, we can do that same method to power it on if we want to power it on manually. Quick press and then a long press. At the top here, again, we have some LED lights to signify how much battery power is left. We can just do a quick one press on the button there, and that'll light up to show us how much power is in there. At the back of the drone here, we have a USB-C port. Again, we can use that for updating firmware or charging the battery while it's in the drone. And beside that, we have a memory card slot. And we're going to take a look at that here in a minute. You can see we have the battery installed there. To remove it, we just press those two tabs on either side. It slides right out. And then again, when you insert it, just make sure you press it in firmly until you hear it click. And as you notice there, when I inserted the battery, the drone went ahead and powered on as well. You can see there that's a third way to power it on. If you're just swapping batteries while you're out flying, it'll automatically power on as soon as you insert a new battery. Now on the side of the Mini 5 Pro here, we have a button. Now currently at the time of filming this video, this button only serves one purpose. Essentially, it allows a quick transfer connection to your smartphone or tablet, allowing you to transfer content. And we are going to be taking a look at that in a separate video coming up down the road. Now I have a feeling DJI is going to do more with that button coming up, but currently at the time of filming this video, it's used just for a quick connection to your smartphone. At the bottom here, we have an LED light that will automatically come on when landing. And we have some sensors there at the bottom. We also have sensors there at the front. These two in the middle are LiDAR sensors, and the two beside that are our visual obstacle avoidance. And then if we flip it around here, we have two more there. So that's going to provide you with 360-degree omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. And again, obstacle avoidance only functions when you're in normal mode or cine mode. So that's a basic look at the hardware. So now we're going to talk about memory, putting memory in the drone, and we're going to talk about how to charge everything up. So when it comes to the Mini 5 Pro, there's actually some built-in memory. It has 48 gigabytes of built-in storage, and that can be really handy if you ever happen to forget a memory card. You'll still be able to record some footage to that internal memory. Now 48 gigabytes is a little bit limiting. You'll find that you'll probably be able to fill that up fairly quickly. So ideally you're going to want to add an external memory card. And right now I'm using SanDisk Extreme. This is the Extreme Pro. It's usually the brand that I like to use. This is a 256 gigabyte card. There's lots of different brands that you can use with it. DJI actually has a recommended list on their website, but as long as it's a nice fast card, for the most part, it'll work just fine. And you can go smaller. You could put something like 128 gigabytes in it, or you can go larger. You can put a 512 or even a 1 terabyte. And to insert the memory, you're going to put the graphic side facing down and then just push it in until it clicks. And in the software, which we'll take a look at here coming up, we can switch back and forth between the internal storage and the memory card, depending where we want to record to. Now, when it comes to charging, there's two different ways in which we can charge the batteries, and it could depend on what package you've purchased. We can charge the battery directly in the drone. So if you've purchased the base kit with just the controller and drone, that's how you'll be charging your battery. If you've purchased the FlyMore kit, you're going to get the charging hub, which will charge all three of these batteries. Now, to charge your drone, you're just going to take the USB-C cable that came with the package and plug it into the back. Now, one thing you will notice that the drone did not come with a charging brick. That is something you will have to provide on your own. And you can use pretty well any USB-C charger. Most of us have them kicking around from our smartphones and tablets. If not, there are some that can be purchased online. DJI sells several as well. I'll put some links to them down in the description of this video if you do need to purchase one. And to charge it up, you just simply plug it into the USB-C there at the back. You're going to notice these lights moving, signifying that it's charging. They will remain all solid once it is fully charged. And to charge in the charging hub, again, just plug in the USB-C cable. Now these batteries are already fully charged, but the same thing, you'll see them flashing as they're charging. And when they're fully charged, they'll stay solid. And you don't have to have all three batteries in there in order to start charging. You can have one battery, two battery, or all three. Now to charge up a controller, whether you're using the RCN3 or the RC2 here, again, just plug it into the USB-C at the bottom. These lights will flash, saying that it is charging, and they'll go solid once it's done. So we've taken a look at the hardware and how to charge it. But before we can go for our very first flight, we do have to do a few things. We have to activate the equipment and we have to update the firmware. Now, if you have the RCN3, the one where you have to mount your smartphone, you do have an extra step. You will have to download the DJI Fly app. It can be downloaded from the Apple App Store just by searching for DJI Fly. From Android, I do believe it needs to be downloaded directly from the DJI website. All you would then do is plug in your phone to the controller, launch the Fly app, and power on the drone and the controller. If you're using the RCN2, as mentioned, the Fly app is already built into it, so you don't have that extra step. All you need to do is power on the controller, power on the drone. They'll automatically connect to one another, and you're going to get some information right away popping up on the screen the first time you power it on. It's going to ask you to set different things like language. It'll ask you to connect to your home Wi-Fi. At some point through the setup, it'll ask you to log in with your DJI account. If you don't have a DJI account, it'll give you the option to create one. Once you're logged in, it'll ask you to activate the equipment, and there's an option there. It'll ask if you want to purchase their DJI Care Refresh. That's basically extra insurance for your drone. You can either purchase it or you can skip that step. Once it's been activated, you'll get a confirmation that it's been successfully activated, and then it will prompt you to install the firmware. The firmware installation is pretty quick, but it can take upwards of 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your internet speed. You'll get a notification on the screen once the firmware has been installed successfully. And the other thing to remember is that these batteries are intelligent flight batteries. They actually have firmware on them as well. So when you're initially updating the firmware on the drone, it's going to update the firmware on the battery if it's needed. The next time you power on the drone and you have one of these batteries installed, one that was not in the drone when you initially updated the firmware, it'll tell you that there's firmware available and it will go ahead and install it. You don't have to reconnect back to the internet. So now we have the drone activated, we have all the firmware updated. So let's take a look around the DJI Fly app and I'll give you a basic rundown of it. So when we power on the drone and the controller, this is the screen it's going to come to. Essentially, this is the flight preview mode. Now I'm going to click on this little house icon at the top left-hand side. That's going to take us to the main DJI Fly app. So if your controller happens to come to this screen, in order to fly, all you need to do is hit the Go Fly button. But let's take a look around the main Fly app. We'll start up here at the top right-hand side. These three dots are going to bring up our settings. Now there's a lot in there. I'm not going to go through them all in this video, but it's a good idea to go through it and familiarize yourself with what's all there. Now, there are going to be a few things that we take a look at as we go along, important things that you need to know about before you take your first flight. So I'm going to tap there to get out of that. Beside that, at the top, we have our satellite indicator. Right now it's saying 0 because I'm indoors. Usually it will not connect to satellites when you're indoors, or perhaps only 1 or 2. And that's very important. When you're flying, you want to make sure you have a good, solid satellite connection. That allows the drone to remain stable in the air, but it also allows a home point to be set. And that way, in the event of a fail-safe disconnect or you manually initiate a return to home, the drone knows where to come back to. You can see there it did actually connect to a few satellites. Beside that is our obstacle avoidance indicator. Right now it's red, meaning that there's no obstacle avoidance, and that's because the drone's not up in the air. Once we take off, that'll change to signify that the obstacle avoidance is enabled. And I should mention that each one of those can be tapped on, and that'll bring up more detailed information. Beside that, we have our RC signal strength. Right now we're at full strength because we're close to it. When you're out flying, the farther away you are, or if there's interference, perhaps obstacles between the controller and the drone, those bars will go down depending on how weak the signal is. It'll also turn to like an orange color when it's getting really weak, and then it will turn to red when it's on the verge of being disconnected. Now the next two things are to do with battery. Where it says 0000, that's how much flight time is remaining. Again, it's saying 0 because I'm not in the air. Once we're up in the air, that'll give us an approximate time, how much time we have left to fly. And as we're flying around, that number will go down. And beside that, we actually get a battery percentage. So you can see right now I have 51% left in this battery. Again, we can tap on that, and that's going to bring up some information about remaining flight time. And right now it's all grayed out because again, I'm not in the air. But once we're up in the air, it'll show us how much time before the drone will automatically return to home because the battery is getting too low. It'll tell us how much time until a forced landing, and it'll give us a rough idea of how much until the battery is completely depleted. So very important to keep an eye on that information. Over here at the left-hand side at the top, you can see it says takeoff permitted because everything is ideal and we're ready to take off. If there was any problems, it would be listed there. And we can tap on that, and that's going to give us some more information about any errors that might appear. It's also a quick way to get to some of the safety information about how high you want to fly, the distance at which you want to fly, and a return to home altitude, which again we will be talking about here in a minute. And down at the very bottom, you can see there's an option there where it allows us to switch back and forth between the SD card and the internal storage. Beside that, it says N mode. That means we're in normal mode. If we were to change that, you can see it changes the mode there at the top. The house icon brings us back to the main Fly app, which we've already looked at. These next two icons here on this side are intelligent flight modes, which we're not really going to get into in this video. This top one is waypoint missions, where you can create pre-planned flights. I am going to make a separate tutorial about that coming up here in a couple of weeks. The next one is for active track and focus track. Again, an intelligent flight mode. But again, we're going to take a look at that in a separate video. The one right below that is actually pretty important. That is our takeoff button. So we could tap on that, and you can see we get this new box here. All we have to do is press and hold, and the drone will automatically launch. Now, I'm not going to do it here sitting at my table, but that's how you would do it. Now, there is another way to take off, which when we're out doing a test flight, I'll show you that method as well. Now, that button will change when we're flying to a return to home and land button. And when we're out doing our test flight, I will demonstrate that for you then. Down the bottom left-hand side there, it will display a variety of different tools. Right now I have the compass, but as you can see, I can swipe on it. There is a visual preview, which essentially is going to be taking a look through some of the obstacle avoidance cameras. Now, it's not displaying anything right now, but when we're up in the air, it allows you to switch back and forth between the different cameras. And that can be handy, say, if you're flying backwards. You can't really see what's coming up behind you, so you could enable that, and that'll kind of give you a rough preview. Now, it's just kind of black and white and really grainy, but enough to see if there's any obstacles coming. Now for that, we can actually tap on it to make it bigger. This compass gives us some information about where the drone is in relation to us, the orientation of the drone, and it can give us some other information such as the angle of the drone depending on how much wind there is. Now, as mentioned, there are three tools, as you could say, down in the bottom left-hand side, and we can change them just by simply swiping. So we have compass, we have the auxiliary view, and we have maps. And there are other things we can do within some of these tools, but like I said, I'm going to save that for a separate video, just so this video doesn't get too long. We just want to kind of cover the basics, the things that you need in order to get up and flying. Beside that, we have some really important information. Essentially, that is our height and our distance from us. So as the drone's flying, that'll tell us how far the drone is away and at what height we're flying, which is really important because most countries have height limits. So you always want to make sure you're within those height limits. And it'll also give us our speed at which we're flying, both vertical speed and horizontal speed. And you can change the measurement unit. Right now, I have mine at meters per second, but in the settings, you can change that to kilometers per hour, or you can set it to imperial if you want miles per hour. Moving along here, down at the bottom right-hand side, we have some information about our resolution and frame rate, different camera settings. Shows us how much storage we have on the memory card. You can see we're filming at 4K 30. And beside that, it says EV. That's our exposure value. And we can adjust that to brighten it up or lower it. All we have to do is tap on it. You can see we can darken or brighten the image. And again, we can click on our frames per second and our frame rate, and we can adjust it to whatever we need. And again, we can click on storage, and we can switch back and forth between the memory card and the built-in storage. Now, at the very right-hand side at the bottom, it says auto. That means all the camera settings are in auto mode. But if you're a person who likes to adjust your own settings, such as ISO and white balance, we can switch it over to pro mode. Now it's going to give us some more options, and we can tap on them. And as you can see, it gives us a lot more settings that we can adjust. We can adjust the white balance, the exposure, color mode. We can set our ISO and our shutter speed. As a beginner, you may just want to leave everything in auto because the drone actually does a really good job in auto. And moving along here on the very right hand side in the middle, the top, that is our mode selector. And by that I mean like changing from video mode to photo mode. They have quick shots, master shots, hyperlapses, panoramas. And again, in this video, we're going to keep it basic. So we're not going to get into all those specialty intelligent flight modes. I will be making separate videos on them as time goes on. The most common that you're going to be switching back and forth to is photo and video. And you'll notice that each one of these modes has a sub mode. So for example, we're in video mode and we have slow motion video and normal video. If I switch it to photo, you can see we can take a single photo, a bracketed photo, burst photo, or a timed photo. So there's lots of flexibility in there depending on the type of content you want to capture. Below that is our shutter button. Right now we're in photo mode, so if I was to tap that, it would take a photo. Or as mentioned, we can use the buttons on the back there. This side here is the photo button. That again, tapping that would take a photo. If we put it in video mode, that now changes to our record button. And again, we can use the record button here at the top on this side. Below that brings us to our gallery. So if we tap on that, you can see it's going to display everything that's currently stored on the memory card or the internal memory. So we can preview it and take a look at it. Now, just keep in mind, if you're previewing it, it's just a low resolution version, but enough to make sure you got the shots that you wanted to get. Beside that over here, we have an AF button. That's how we can switch back and forth between automatic focus and manual focus. Above that, we have our zoom level. In 4K, we can go from 1x zoom to 2x zoom. We can touch the buttons there on the screen. Or as mentioned, we can use the dial at the back there. That'll zoom us in as well. And we can actually go all the way up to 3x zoom. Now that is a digital zoom. It's going to be heavily cropped, so the video footage will be degraded. If you stick between 1x and 2x, the video quality will be really good. And lastly, right above that is a button to rotate the camera if you want to capture in vertical mode. You can see when I tap on that, we are now going to be filming in vertical. And again, we can tap on that and that'll put it back to landscape. Now there's other ways we can do that. Those C1 and C2 buttons on the bottom of the controller, you can utilize them to rotate the camera as well. All of that can be set up in the settings. You can customize the buttons for different shortcuts. Now I do want to go into the settings a little bit and show you a few things that you should be aware of. So again, we're going to tap on the settings button there, those three dots at the top right hand side. And you'll notice at the top we have sub-menus. We have safety, control, camera, transmission, and about. The safety one's actually really important because here we can set a few things. For example, our obstacle avoidance, we can set to bypass, brake, or off. If we have bypass, what's going to happen is if we're flying the drone and we come up to an obstacle, say a tree, the drone is going to try and find a safe route around the obstacle. It'll try and go around it or perhaps over it. If we select brake, if the drone encounters an obstacle such as a tree or a wall, it's just going to come to a complete stop. Or we can turn it right off. Now, as a beginner, I don't recommend turning it off, but sometimes that is necessary, especially if you're trying to fly really close to something. The obstacle avoidance can be more of a hindrance and prevent you from getting a shot you want to grab. So sometimes there are times where you need to disable it. For the most part, I always leave mine on bypass. Now there's other options in there, but the ones I do want to show you here is the return to home altitude. Now, the Mini 5 Pro actually has a very advanced return to home, which I'm going to demonstrate when we go out flying. But you can set a return to home altitude if that's your preferred method. Myself, I would just leave it at 100 and let the drone manage it. But the other things you may want to adjust is the max altitude. For example, you may not want to fly higher than 40 or 50 meters your first couple of flights. So you can adjust how high the drone will go. It's definitely a good idea. Make sure you don't have it set higher than the legal limit in which the country you're flying. Most countries are 400 feet. So it's a good idea to leave it at 120 meters or 400 feet. You can also set a distance limit. Right now I have mine set to no limit, but if you don't want to go, say, farther than 100 meters, again, you could set that accordingly. And if we keep scrolling down here, you can see we have the options of disabling that feature where it will automatically power on when unfolded. So we can turn off the feature where it powers on when it's unfolded and powers off when it's folded back up. So that's all going to boil down to personal preference. If we go over to control here, at the top, you can see that's where we can change it from metric to Imperial. We can increase the text size. A couple other things here is the stick mode. By default, it's going to be what's called mode 2. And essentially that's just how the drone moves depending on the input. That's standard for drones. That's what most people use. Some people who come from a background of gaming, sometimes it can feel a little awkward, a little backwards. So you can adjust it to a different mode that might make more sense to you. But for the most part, I would leave that alone at mode 2. And button customization, that's where we can go and set the C2 and C1 button. You can see mine right now, the C1 button recenters the gimbal, and the C2 button will put the camera into portrait and rotate it. And there's all different things in there we can set it to. We have different options at the top: control, camera, and other. So you can just go through that. There might be certain aspects that you think would make more sense. But one thing I do want to show you here is, as mentioned, this dial here will control the zoom level. However, if we press the C1 button there at the bottom, while we're pressing it, we turn that dial. You can see we can rotate the camera. That's one of the features of the Mini 5 Pro, is not only can it film vertically, we can get some creative shots just by rolling the camera. So that's how you would do it. You would press and hold the C1 button and then use that dial. So we've taken a look at the hardware, the Fly app, kind of familiarized ourselves with the layout. So at this point, we're now going to go out for a quick test flight. All right, so now we're going to do a bit of a test flight. I'm going to demonstrate a few things for you. You can notice I have the drone out there in front of me, and I have it on a landing pad. If you're brand new to drones, I highly recommend picking a landing pad up. They're fairly inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon, and you just never know the surface that you're going to be launching the drone from. Right now, there's some grass out in front of me, and sometimes they can interfere with the propellers while you're trying to take off. Or you might be taking off from wet, muddy ground, snow. So having a landing pad can be really important. Of course, you can always learn to hand launch and hand catch it, but as a beginner, it's not really something I do recommend. Now, for your very first flight, I would highly recommend finding a big open park without a lot of obstacles. Although the drone does have obstacle avoidance, you know, until you really get to know the behavior of the drone, how it maneuvers, it's a good idea to make sure there's not a lot of people around and a big open space. Where I'm flying right now might not be the ideal place for a first flight. The other thing you should make sure you research before you take your first flight are the drone regulations in the country in which you live. Every country has slightly different drone regulations, and it can be very important because you could end up with some pretty steep fines if you end up breaking one of the regulations. So with all that out of the way, I'm going to show you how to launch the drone. There's actually two ways in which we can do it. The first way is right on the screen there. That button that we talked about earlier, that's our takeoff button. That's kind of an automatic takeoff. And you can see when I touch it, we get this box popping up. And what we have to do is just press and hold on that. A green circle will appear around it, and the drone will go ahead and launch.
Takeoff. Home point updated.
And as you can see, the drone is now hovering right in front of us, about a meter. Now at this point, you can see that that button has turned into a landing button. If we touch it, again, the drone will just go ahead and land. So when the drone's on the ground, that's a takeoff button. When it's up in the air, it becomes a land button. And actually it becomes two buttons. Because we were close to where we took off from, it only gave us the land option. But if we were out flying and we were 100 meters away up in the air, it would actually give us two options. It'll give us the option to land, but it would also give us the option to come home. And we will be taking a look at that here coming up. Now, the other thing I do want to mention, I should have maybe mentioned that first, is before you fly the drone, before you launch it, you want to make sure you have enough satellites. You can see right now I have 23 satellites. I'm connected to 23. It's kind of bouncing around there a little bit. You just want to have a good satellite lock. You want to have at least, I usually recommend at least 15. You'll know you have a good satellite lock because you'll get that notification that the home point has been set. And you can always double check your home point just by tapping on the map icon there. And if you have that big yellow H, that means there's a home point set. And you can also check from the compass. I'm going to swipe over here to bring up the compass. You can see there it's kind of hidden underneath, but there's a yellow H. That means we have a home point set. And it's good to have that satellite lock and a home point set before you take off. And that way, if you run into any troubles, the drone is going to automatically come back to where it took off from, but it needs to know where the home point is. Good satellite connection is also going to make the drone more stable up in the air. That's what helps hold it in position on windy days. If it has a good satellite lock, it won't drift around in the wind. Now, so the second way to launch it is by doing a series of stick commands. And what we're going to do is pull down, and we can either push in or pull to the side. So I'm going to pull the sticks down, push the sticks in. Now you can see the motors started, but the drone hasn't taken off yet. In order to take off, we just have to push slightly up on the left stick. And you can see there it's now hovering out in front of us. So again, we could land it just by using the button on the screen. However, when the drone is close to the ground hovering, we can just pull down on the left stick.
Landing.
And again, that will make the drone land. So I'm going to put the drone back up again here.
Takeoff.
And a couple things I want to show you on the screen. As mentioned, the drone has obstacle avoidance, and we can tell that it's picking up obstacles because we get that yellow at the top there, that kind of semicircle, and we have red at the bottom. Where there's red, that means we're very close to an obstacle. Where it's yellow, that means it's kind of close. If we were out in the open, there would be nothing there. We also get an audio beep. You can hear that beeping. That's again some audible warning that we're getting close to an obstacle. Now you'll notice if I switch it into sport mode, that beeping goes away because we've disabled the obstacle avoidance. And again, if you look at the obstacle avoidance icon at the top right hand side, it is now red. If I put it back to normal, you can see it turns to white, stating that it is active. And we can tap on it and it tells us that everything is normal. But you can see when I put it back into sport mode and we've disabled obstacle avoidance, we still get that semicircle at the top and bottom, signifying that there's obstacles. So that visual cue will always still be there. And again, down in the compass, you can see down in the bottom right-hand side, we also get notifications, little markers there that there's obstacles around us. Now, I highly recommend for your first couple flights, keep it in cine or normal mode, and that way you have full use of the obstacle avoidance. Take a look at some movements of the drone here. We have two sticks that we use to control the drone. And again, I'm going to be explaining this as we're in mode 2. There's different modes you can set for the movement of the sticks, but to keep it simple, we're going to keep it in mode 2. So we'll start with the right stick here. Now we can do two movements with this stick. We can push forward and pull back. That's going to move the drone forward and bring it back closer to us. So I'll just demonstrate that there. Hopefully you can see the drone. So I'm going to push forward. You can see the drone just move forward. Now I can pull back and the drone will move back. We can also go side to side, and that's going to move the drone from side to side. As you can see there, push to the left, the drone goes left. Push to the right, the drone goes right. Now the left stick has two movements as well. That is going to be our altitude and rotating the drone. So to raise the drone or lower the drone, we're going to push up. You can see the drone is moving up. If I pull the stick down, the drone is going to move down. And how fast it does it is going to depend on a few different things. First of all, it's going to depend on what mode you're in there in the middle, but it also depends on how far you're pushing the stick. If we're to push it really fast all the way up, it's going to raise a lot faster, just kind of like an accelerator on a car. The farther you push the accelerator in, the faster the car will move, and the same goes with the drone. The other movement we can do is side to side, and as you can see, the drone is going to spin around and change its orientation. Now, once you get some experience under your belt and you've been flying for a little while, you'll be able to use both sticks at the same time to get some really dynamic movements. That's something that's going to take a little bit of practice, but it will come with time. So now what we're going to do here is I'm going to put the drone out a little bit, and I'm going to demonstrate return to home so you can see how that works. So we'll put the drone up here. We'll get it up past these trees, and then we'll send it out over the field here. Now, return to home can work in a couple different ways. They have manual return to home. That's whereas if you manually initiate it because you want the drone to come back to you. But they also have a fail-safe return to home. So if for whatever reason you get disconnected from the controller, perhaps you've flown out too far, or there's some interference, or the battery dies in the controller, the drone will automatically go into a return to home and come back and land. Now, if it's because you flew too far and you disconnected from the controller, chances are by the time it gets back to you and it's come within range, it will automatically reconnect again and you'll have full control. So to manually initiate the return to home, there's two ways we can do it. We can use this button here on the controller, press and hold, and that will start a return to home. Or we can use that landing button. As I mentioned, if we tap on it, you can see it now gives us two options. We have land and return to home. If we press land, it's going to land right where it is, which of course we don't want that. So I am going to press return to home, and the drone is going to turn around and come back to us. Now I'm just going to get out of the way of the landing pad here so it can come in and land. And you're going to notice that green line on the screen. That's essentially giving you a virtual route that the drone is going to take. It's a good idea if you're doing a return to home, always keep an eye on it because, you know, things happen. At any time, you can press that red X at the side of the screen or the pause button there at the top, and that will cancel the return to home and the drone will just come to a stop. So always keep an eye on it while it's doing a return to home. And the drone is right above us now. You can see it coming in. It's right up there. And there we go. You can see it pretty well landed exactly where it took off from. That's really important because that helps get rid of some of the flight anxiety you may have as a new pilot. You'll know that the drone will always come back to where it took off from. Even if you lose control, you've lost it up in the sky, you've been disconnected, the drone will always come back to you. And because of its obstacle avoidance and the way it builds a real-time map on its outbound flight, it will even be able to navigate complex environments like this. Now at this point, you're just going to have to get out and fly, practice your maneuvers, get a good feel of how the drone behaves when you're moving the sticks. You'll eventually get that, what they call muscle memory, so you'll just know which way to move the sticks. It'll just come naturally. So that was just some basic operations of the drone just to get you up and flying. Now a couple other things I want to go over here before we end this video. Now in that video we took a quick look at return to home if we've manually initiated it. But as mentioned, the drone will also come home if it gets disconnected. The third way it will actually come home, which we didn't take a look at in the demonstration, is low battery return to home. As mentioned, at the top, you're going to have that battery indicator showing you how much power there is. And when you tap on it, it's going to give you an estimation of when the drone is going to automatically return to home because the battery is getting too low. The drone is constantly going to be adjusting the battery information, and it's going to determine, based on how far away you are, how much power it thinks it needs to get back. So you might be out flying around, and then you're going to get a notification that the drone is going to automatically return to home due to low battery power. Now the last thing I want to go over here with you are changing the props. If you happen to nick a tree branch or something and you damage one of the props and it needs to be changed, there's actually two props that comes with the kits. There's a B prop and an A prop. You can see it's labeled B, it's in blue, and A here is in white. But more importantly, what you're going to notice is that if you look at the props, this prop here has gray printing on the top. This one here has orange. And you'll notice diagonally they're the same. So these two here are orange, these two here are gray. And that's because these two props, diagonal to each other, are the exact same. And again, these ones here are the exact same. So when you go to change your props, you just want to make sure you match up the color. So you can see there, I don't know if you can see that through the plastic, but this one here has orange on it. It's the A prop. This one here has gray on it. It's the B prop. So if you have to change a gray one, what you're going to do is just press down and you're going to twist it clockwise, and that's going to release it. You just have three little clips on it. Then you're just going to take an undamaged prop. You're just going to line it up. It doesn't matter which hole each of those little tabs go into. They're all the same. But this time we're going to press down and go counterclockwise, and it will lock in. And it's a good idea just to double check to make sure they're in there nice and firm. And the other thing you'll notice on the motor, there's an orange ring right at the top there. So again, that color ring will help you match up to the proper propeller. So that's basically it for this video. Now, I am working on a video that I'm going to have uploaded in about a week or two. Essentially, we're going to go over all the things you need to know to transfer the content from the drone over to a smartphone or tablet or your computer. There's several different ways in which we can do it. We can plug the drone in directly, we can pull the memory card out, or we can use the DJI Fly app. So if you are brand new to the Mini 5 Pro, this is your first drone, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that video. And I will have other tutorial videos and demonstration videos coming up over the coming weeks and months. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it had value. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.